morning. The next keynote speaker I was talking about is Srinivas Varadarajan. Srinivas is the CEO and founder of Vignan Labs, a startup that provides innovative solutions for energy management, climate change, micro data centers, and big data centers. He has over 30 years of experience in IT industry and has multiple patents in energy and management and middleware products. He is passionate about nature, environment, sustainability, and has invented the intelligent power management suite of software that has enabled Fortune 500 companies to save over a terawatt hours of energy till date. He is also a mentor, speaker, and governing board member of various organizations and initiatives that support entrepreneurship, innovation, and social impact. He is on the mission to help businesses achieve a very sustainable digital transformation with Vignan Labs. A very warm welcome to you, sir.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. So while we get the presentation ready, let me just talk, Let me go back to the little bit of history, right? History tells us, where we as a, human beings started our journey and where we are today and what is the future going to be for all of us, right? I think yesterday I had an interesting discussion with somebody. He said, the language English has 26 alphabets. Amount of books which has been written is millions of books. And we can write infinite amount of books in the 26 alphabets. I said there's something more profound. There's a word called digital. There are only two numbers, 0 and 1. You just do things 0 and 1, you can actually see the amount of information created is just two numbers, 0 and 1. Okay? That's all the digital world is about, right? So go back to the, the history of humanity and nature. Anything which is scalable and big is basically a small thing. Very, very small thing. Fundamentally, look at physics, right? I'm not going to elementary particles, you can look at physics, basic physics, right? Not the atomic physics. You just have atoms and molecules. You have a periodic table, right? Different permutations and combinations of atoms and molecules create this periodic table. And different permutations and combinations of elements in the periodic table create so much of things. That's the physical world, right? Digital world is only two things, 0 and 1. How 0 and 1 have changed the things in the world today, right? Next half hour, I'll just talk about where we are today in the world and where we are moving and what is our role as a human being, right? Long before the Industrial Revolution, our work, there's nothing called work. There's no office, there was no industry, right? You just did, it's basically man grew food and weather permitted, you grew the food. When the rainfall, you did high, you did plowing in the agricultural fields. When there's no rain, you just sat at home and spend time. But Industrial Revolution changed everything. That there was because man had to change, because machines had to work in a fixed hour time, right? So machines were made to run 24 hours. So we have to adapt ourselves to work 24 hours in the world of machines. And that's continued, right? That's where the formal work has come in, the work, office, employment, whole things are formalized. That's what we have seen last 300 to 400 years. We have seen there's formal work, right? There's an office, there's a college, there's a time, fixed time. We are forced to work according to time. But look at other creatures in the world other than human beings. There's no concept of time. There's no concept of shift, right? They were according to their own. All animals, animal hunts only when it's hungry, right? It's not hungry, it doesn't hunt. There's no time. We only created the artificial concept of time and so on. And where we are going to go today, look at, what's the future of mankind likely to be? Right? And this digital evolution has made so much changes. Today, we have got so much comfort today. Maybe 100 years back, people didn't have all the comfort. Today, I think many of you are very privileged to be this part of the world where, without going anywhere, touching something or gesturing, you can get everything done. You touch something, get a food, right? A tiger has to work hard to earn its food, right? There's a saying, right? The fastest tiger has to be faster than the slowest deer, otherwise he will die of hunger. The slowest deer has to be faster than the fastest tiger, otherwise he will die. At home means we are lucky. Just press a button and everything happens. Voila will come, you can get deliver food. So you don't need to do anything, right? Literally. We are in a bountiful world where we have plenty of resources, plenty of things. And which a digital world has created all this, made all this possible. What is digital world powered by? Just zeros and ones. Infinite permutations of zeros and ones will create all this illusion for us that everything is possible. Okay. Let me go back. Why our world is sustainability framework is while digital resources have been used to create many things, interesting things. What has human beings forgotten is that there's something in nature. We have finite amount of resources in nature. There's a finite amount of land, finite amount of water. That's it. Finite amount of resources. Our imagination can be infinite, but physical resources are only finite, right? And what I think as challenge, all of you facing future, I see you face many challenges. Number one is nature issues, climate change. You have scarcity, you will have everything, you will have all the gadgets in the world. There will be scarcity of water. There will be, what you would say, nature, right? Pollution, extreme weather conditions. You see in Mumbai yesterday what happened 2 days back. Next thing is boredom. Machines will do all the work for you. What are you going to do? That's a big question to think about, right? It's going to happen in the next 5-10 years. Every mundane work, there will be robots doing all the physical work, cleaning will be done by something. Every work possible you can think of today will be done by robots. Thinking will be done by AI. What are we going to do? Right? That's a question. One of the things I think what we need to do is preserve nature so that we can live and breathe. That machines can't do. Yeah. I think many must have seen about AI, right? OpenAI. How many of you have not used ChatGPT? How many of you have not used ChatGPT? I think all of you use ChatGPT, right? For something or other. You can write your notes, do your homework also. So you don't need to go to college, right? You don't need teachers. You can ask it to write assignment, it will do for you. It will ask you to write the answers, the exam will do for you. So what's powering all this thing, right? What's making all this happening? The huge digital infrastructure, AI infrastructure, what we call a GPU, right? Graphic processing units. Unfortunately, the GPU is the wrong word for this thing. In fact, I think many of you may be playing using, your laptop, desktop to play some games, right? So once upon a time, if you look at any display screen, right? How is the display created digital? What is the pixels? Image is created by a lot of pixels. To process these pixels, multiple colors, combination and graphics, long back, NVIDIA and many companies created called a graphic processing units. what graphic processing used to do is take a data in memory and then show it on the display screen by using a lot of real-time calculations. And since all the pixels in the screen have to be stored simultaneously, you need to have so many, codes or chips doing things in parallel, right? Parallel. So that's why the parallel computing came into the world, GPU world. But when AI came in, what NVIDIA thought is, I already created a parallel computing infrastructure. Why can't you use the same so-called GPU to do some computational work? Which is nothing. The fundamentals of AI is nothing but matrix multiplication. So if you have a matrix of chips doing multiplication, thousands of them, which were made for doing graphic display, you can repurpose them to do computation that became foundation of AI. So unfortunately, the word GPU is stayed behind. Although we don't do any graphic processing, we do actually matrix multiplication. Fundamental of AI is matrix multiplication. So NVIDIA found that existing GPUs we use for graphics, gaming purpose, we can reuse them for doing mathematical calculations. So every time you click a button and try something, there's a lot of what you call LLMs, right? LLMs and transformers are running behind. It's just huge amount, humongous amount of computation in parallel. So if you look at a normal desktop or a laptop, right, you have 4 cores, 8 cores with some computation. A graphic processing unit or AI GPU uses tens and thousands of, each chip uses tens and thousands of cores which are doing multiplication in parallel. But if you want to do so many things in parallel, you need huge amount of energy, right? Huge, massive amount of energy. And each GPU chip takes about 300 to 400 watts of power. So the moment you do a query, ask a question for ChatGPT, there are millions of cores, chips in the background which are doing a computation and sending results back. Okay. So what all LLMs do is basically what you call as inference, right? Inferencing is you already have a data model of what's the kind of answers you can expect a given question. A language model. The language model predicts the potential answer to your questions and from a huge database of data within, and does a basic computation and sends results back to you. So what does it mean in terms of you and me, all of us today, right? Two things, right? This AI infrastructure requires huge amount of energy, which much more than what we ever thought. Today, this AI infrastructure runs in data centers around the world, and we almost consume 4 to 5% of the global energy today. And the digital infrastructure does more pollution than the airline today. It's the biggest polluter of everything. And this 4 to 5% is likely to become 10 to 15% in the next 5-10 years. So where are we going to get energy for this? Yes, we talk of solar, wind, but today 70% energy in the world comes from coal and fossil fuels. Already you have seen the impact of climate change, right? So much of pollution and so on. We want to put more and more digital infrastructure, more and more ChatGPT is used. They need to fire more and more coal plants. That's one part of the story. Second important part is water. So every time you run something on GPU, the GPU needs to be cooled, right? There's a cooling required. Cooling requires water. Every unit of power a infrastructure uses, you need 2 liters of clean water. I can't use wastewater, clean water. No? Because the water is for cooling the chillers which cool your CPU. Because when you do a query, when you do any computation on the GPU, you do so much of computation, it gets hot, really, really hot. Cool that you use today's technology, conventionally use water for cooling. Just to give an example, right? One of the large data centers in Google, Oregon, is at 1.5 million gallons of water per day. 2 days back, somebody said, I want to, I think it was 2 days back, somebody came and said, we want to build a large AI infrastructure in India, I need 350 megawatt of power. We did a quick math to him that this 350 megawatt of power data center requires 16 million liters of water a day. I don't think people can imagine what is 16 million liters of water a day. It's 20,000 tankers of water coming to your building every day. It's like one river, right? So the biggest challenge facing us technology world today is natural resources. So I want to talk about sustainability in digital infrastructure, because unless you solve this problem, you may run all the queries to get your answers, but you don't have water to drink, right? What will you choose? Right? That's why I think our future research and all of us look at how to preserve the environment. We may have all the comforts in the world, but you don't have water to drink, what will you do, right? So the question to all of us is, how do we create sustainable infrastructure so that we can enjoy the benefits at the same time, use the natural resources within its constraints, right? So while we use renewable energy, right, renewable energy has its own limitation, right? We get cloudy skies, solar cannot generate power. There is no wind, renewable energy cannot generate power, right? So the renewable energy is not available 24 hours a day. Yes, there are technologies emerging like, whenever the sun generated energy and stored in the batteries. But still, this technology is not yet mature enough today. Still, we depend on nuclear, hydro, and majority is thermal, right? That's the coal-fired power plants. So what we look at, at the Vigilance, whatever our focus has been, to create technologies which don't harm nature, right? So our focus was about looking at what are the devices, See, if you look at today, we have 7 billion smartphones in the world, 7 billion smartphones. Almost 2 billion laptop desktops. Any day, guess how much energy does a smartphone consume per day? Any guesses how much energy does a smartphone consume in a day today? You must put a charger, no? Most of you have a high-speed charger, right? 30 watts, roughly 30 to 40 watts. A laptop consumes anywhere between 50 to 100 watts. So multiply the 30 watts by, sometimes some of you charge 2 times a day, right? Use so much of the phone. 60 watts into 7 billion. What's the energy consumed? Massive number, right? Same thing with laptop desktop, right? 2 billion into 100. 2 billion. 2 billion watt hours per day, right? Right? It's a kind of energy consumed. It's a massive. And add to that is data centers, right? Today, right? We have hundreds of data centers around the world. There are about 11,000 data centers in the world today. All these devices consume energy. And generate heat, they require water for cooling. So we are at a crisis today as humankind that, well, you have the comforts. Our comfort is no longer to be comfortable. We have all the comforts in sitting at home with floods happening, weather's going extreme. We will not be able to move anywhere, right? You will be locked into a digital world, right? The physical world is getting destroyed. We may have all the wonders. So we have been focusing on, doing innovation in terms of energy management, using AI to do energy optimization. One of the first endeavor was to look at, a desktop laptop, because there are billions of devices. Can we save energy, right? Because you just look at any of you, right? You use a laptop or a desktop. Sometimes you'll be doing a presentation, sometimes you'll be doing a Skype call or a Zoom call. Sometimes you want to do is just reading a document. But all times, a laptop is not fully used, right? So just think of like a car or a bike, right? Your first gear, second gear, fourth gear, it will be idle. Most of the time, it will be idle, not doing anything. So we use AI to look at the energy usage of every device and predict the idle time and to save energy. And this small little thing using AI has helped us to save almost, I would say, 2,000 gigawatt of energy till now, which means we can power entire Mysore city for 1 year, right? And we have used AI in an interesting way to solve some of the challenges in the digital world. That's one part. Second cause was the building, right? Building, how can you create sustainable buildings? That's today the buildings are itself consume quite a bit of energy. If you look at today, a large number of buildings in the country, we're just copying the West, right? You must have seen huge glass facades in the building. These buildings with glass facades were created in the Western world because they want to keep the building warm. The cold country you want it warm. So to reduce energy consumption, you put a lot of gas facades, so the building it becomes warm naturally. Unfortunately, without understanding the science behind glasses, we have blindly copied that. Put huge glass facades in the building. So when you put a glass facade in the building, huge facade in the building temperature goes up by 30 to 40%. And you need extra energy for cooling. Okay. So behind everything, what is the science behind it? We blindly copy things without understanding the science. This is what happened, right? And most of Asia, which is the tropical region, it's actually hot, temperate climate, You see large number of buildings coming with huge amount of assets. So we need to look at different building materials, how do you use different construction materials to make the building actually good. If you look at many of the old buildings in the country, look at the palace and the historical monuments, they were built using sustainable materials, less amount of cement, a lot of mortar and other material. You can just see, many buildings in the city are more than 100 years old. They're still good. So we look at the building materials, can you create sustainable building, use AI and automation to turn on things, right? You see many buildings, see a board, please turn off lights when you go. I don't think anybody turns off light, right? How many of you turn off light when you go back, leave the classroom? Good. But today we have technology, AI, right? AI can figure out everything. Whether you are there in a classroom or not, which idle, which light is enough, natural light is good enough. So what do you do in big houses? We use AI to automate the building. So whenever you get time, you are in Hyderabad, can come over and look at the building. Does not have any switches, only sensor driven, is AI driven. Everything is automated, right? Because we did a lot of automation. Almost last 5 years, not a single light has ever gone bad. Not a single bulb has failed. So the benefits of automation is that equipment don't fail, because when you press a switch, sometimes you flickers, switch gets damaged, lights get damaged. So we're able to save a huge amount of energy by using sustainable material for building construction as well as automating all the operations in a building. So one of the important things as I look at digital transformation is look at your sustainable journey. How can you make all the digital infrastructure sustainable? And if you don't know that, one day with a lot of natural resources, all your digital infrastructure will fall apart. Imagine building huge data centers which consume water. One summer there's no water, drought. Everything is dead, right? You can't use your data, everything is gone. And that's what I think, just warning everybody that, we just need to look at sustainable way of doing digital infrastructure. While digital technology is great, there's also pitfalls about it. Making it sustainable, use minimal amount of natural resources. So we have resources for ourselves, right? Next thing we go to was how do you look at data center itself as a important infrastructure? And last 5 years, our research has been creating a cloud infrastructure in Mysore itself. Probably we are the first data center in Mysore, cloud infrastructure, which is fully sustainable, runs on solar power. Probably we created the world's first AI infrastructure which does not use water for cooling. We use zero water for cooling. And many of you, when you get time, take a look at Mysore.ai. It's our Mysore own ChatGPT. It does not use water. And it just uses less than 2 kilowatt of power. That's it. And you get an answer in a sub-second. It's locally in Mysore. Try out its own Mysore ChatGPT. So it's a modern version of. So 100 years back, we created a Mysore Park. 100 years later, we created Mysore.ai. I think we have to move away from just the physical world to digital world, and this is our contribution in this society and the country. How to create a sustainable digital infrastructure, AI, without using water and using natural resources, solar, right? Solar power. I talked about smart building already, right? Smart building already. So basically, what give you a thought behind? While you're looking at digital transformation globally and in the context of Asia, whole Asia Pac, we have limited amount of resources because we high density population, right? We have limited amount of natural resources. So we need to look at sustainable practices in creating a digital infrastructure. Use as minimal resources as possible, natural resources, and make sure that your future generation has some resources, right? Don't depend everything. I think one of the things I always wonder, our ancestors gave us a good set of natural resources. There are plenty of water, land, environment, clean air. Are we in a position to hand over the same or a better environment to our next generation of people, right? I think that's where all our endeavor has to be. And the onus on you for your future generation is about just stop here. The onus on all of you is future is that, tackling two things, right? One is environment, second is boredom. How do you tackle boredom, right? Slowly get out of your digital world, be in the physical world. Finally, what matters when there's no power, there can be natural disasters, right? Someday there'll be no power, extreme weather. Your phone won't work. You only need to talk to people, right? So build relationships, build a social connect. And I think just watch, the 4 5 years, you will not have much work to do. Be bored. How long will you chat in a day? Phone, right? So build, social networks, not the social media, to real world, make real friends, talk to people, build a relationship, and try to see what you can do, right? You have a lot of free time. You can pursue your hobbies, you can be creative, and all the work you can do, think of working today, right? Any calculations, mathematics, writing documents, when, quite a bit of art, AI is already doing it, right? So challenge for you, there are two challenges for you going forward in the future. One is boredom, second thing, extreme weather. I think you need to look forward. How do you address these two challenges? Thank you. We just prompt there, Anusha. Just open the screen. I'll just give you 1 minute. I'll just show you one prompt. Can you just open the conference and then?
Prompt. It's not here. So, ಹೇಳಿದೆ ಸರ್.
Okay, yeah.
ಓಪನ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ
I mean, I think, I just being asked, tell if you would have anybody have any questions? Just feel free to ask questions. I'll just tell you brief some small story about Aadhaar, how we did, right? Just a story about Aadhaar. Talks about that. Okay, yeah. Feel free to ask questions. I'll just tell the story of Aadhaar, right? Almost, I think, 16 years back, right? I was just invited. Me and my couple of friends were invited to. Can you create an ID for every citizen in a country, right? Yes, we can create. How do you create it, right? It's a question, right? How do you create ID? How do you create agency? Name is same, can't use name, right? 15 years back, I really mobile number thing to duplicate, right? Like an enter mobile numbers. How do you make sure that ID is unique? Right? Name should be same. Data birth could be same. How do you unique it? So we did some research and found out that many of you use biometric, right? In your school attendance, finger. Unfortunately, that biometry is not good enough for a population of 1.2 billion because one single figure among the population is repeated in 1 out of 300. So if something is 1 out of 300, you take 1.5 billion people, you will do many duplicates. Right? Which means we have to take all the 10 figures. Is 10 figure good enough? Makes it enough. No. You have a billion population, 1.5, 10 figure is not good enough. What do you do more? It's a IS. So you have 10 fingers plus 2 IDs, 12 plus of course face, name, address, and else. Okay. How do I ensure there's no duplicate, right? Which means I put a first person data in a database, second person comes in, I have to compare all the 10 figures IDs against the first person. Okay. 10 plus 2 plus 13. I need to do 13 comparisons, right? Now the third person I need to do 26 comparisons. Fourth person 39 comparisons. As you start adding more and more people, number of comparisons become trillion, right? Go back to the basic maths. It's n square, right? N square. No. So 1 point, you go, 1.5 billion people into 13, right? How much is it? 20 billion parameters, right? So every time a new person enrolls or a new person, I want to check if it's duplicate or not, I have to compare this 13 parameters against 20 billion. And if I enroll 1 million per day, I need to do 20 billion into 13 million compared. Just imagine what kind of computation you need, right? Massive, right? How do you do a population scale for 1.1 billion people? So we studied, the largest biometric system in the world at the time was US, right? US used to, when anybody wants to go to US, visitor, they used to capture your biometrics, 10 fingers. That was done only for 30 billion people. And we are 1.5 billion people. Big. If something works for 30 million, even if you have 0.1, 0.01% error, it's okay. But 0.01% error of 1.5 billion is huge. A million people in one village will be excluded. We had to arrive at a very small error of 0.0001, right? How do you do that? Next thing was that, how do you make sure that we can achieve this great digital infrastructure at a cost structure where we can afford? So this, what US had done was, they created 30 billion users, they spent $50 per person. Okay, $50 into 30 billion, it's okay, right? How much is it? 385, $1.5 billion, it's okay. But now 50 into 1.5, how much is it? 75 billion. How many crores did they tell you? 1 billion is as of today, I think, 87 rupees a dollar. 1 billion is 8,700 crores. 8,700 into 75, how much is it? It's more than GDP will collect in the country for 1 year. The GST will collect, right? More than GST will collect for the whole taxes we collect. We need have the money to spend, right? So what do? We have to innovate, right? Two things. We said if you want to give ID to every person, we should reduce the cost from $50 to $1. 1/50th. So one of the things you need to remember in India, we have scale. Anything we do that we didn't scale at a fraction of the cost. Because our per capita income is still about $2,700. We are not a very rich country in terms of the global GDP, right? Per capita. So our goal was to reduce from $50 to $1 per person. How to do that, right? Not a small task. It's not Excel sheet. You're doing real world, right? So one of the things we found was, if you want to do this massive amount of computation, right? Trillions of computation a day. Because probably even today, it's one of the biggest infrastructure in the world. That's trillions of computations a day, right? So trillions of computation a day, it required almost 100,000 servers, 1 lakh servers. Way back in 2016, 1 lakh servers was a big number. Because servers were very small capacity, unlike today. 1 lakh servers. And how much energy you require for 1 lakh servers? It required about 50 megawatt of power. 50 megawatt. More than the entire city of Mysore consumes. Right? So how do you get 50 megawatt of power in a country anywhere? It's not easy. Because it takes many years to get 50 megawatt of power. You have to set up a substation, new generation plant, power plants will set up, right? To generate this power. We need two players, right? When you set up a large infrastructure, you need a disaster recovery system because we have earthquakes, floods. You set up two set locations. So we set one in north, one in south. So 50 plus 50, 100 megawatts. It's not a small number, a huge amount of energy. So we set our goals and 50 megawatt is not possible. We have to reduce to 5 megawatt. 110, right? Reduce 110. How to reduce 110, right? It's okay, Excel sheet you can do everything, right? Real world reducing 110 is not possible. So we almost worked on about 6 months to 1 year. Improve writing a better algorithm. And if we actually almost 6 months down the line, we had an algorithm. We could actually reduce the algorithm, at least we wrote an algorithm to reduce the number of servers from 100,000 to 10,000. But who will believe you? Right? So what do you do when people don't believe you? Can you show it is working? No. I don't know 10,000 servers. Nobody is giving you to give you to prove it. How do you prove? Went back to mathematics, right? Fundamental maths, right? That's the only way you can prove it. So we almost took 6 months to mathematically prove that actually we proved. One of these I'll share with you in the forum. Long back we wrote in 2009. That's the foundation of all that is in the world, the mathematical proof we wrote. It's a one-page proof. It's a fairly complex mathematical proof. And that changed the whole thing equation. That you can do, say, n square algorithm using any log n or less than n square. That changed the whole equation. The cost came down from $50 to $1. Actually, we finally ended up doing it $0.50. Today, what you're seeing the benefits of UPI or digital transformation is the Aadhaar foundation, right? And every country is aware of it. And what we did in Vigyan Labs after Aadhaar was that there are many problems which we couldn't solve. Energy, we hadn't part of the energy problem. There are many parts of the problem we could never solve. Because we had time, deadlines, many things to do. But when you do a government tender, you can't do everything. So since Aadhaar got over, we did many projects like this in the country. Like, we did nationally for Philippines, Morocco, Togo, Oman, right now Fiji, every small and medium country we did the ID projects. One of the problems we found was environment sustainability, right? Creating large digital infrastructure. Where are you going to get water? Where are you going to get energy? So last decade of research then has been to create sustainable digital infrastructure so that we don't consume much of natural resources. And while we do this thing, AI came from somewhere, right? Now we all focus on creating sustainable AI infrastructure. AI does not consume water, right? So it does not consume water, which can help you do a lot of automation. And here people always say that India is not a country which technology is created. We said, how do you prove everybody wrong? It's only by showing it, right? And one of the important things in the geopolitics happening in the world is we are all using data. Somebody gives us free, right? Free storage, use something. But we all understand that your personal data is not free. So in exchange for free storage, you're selling your personal data. Unfortunately, right? And all of digital data is owned by other countries. Unfortunately, your phone data is owned by somebody else, right? So 90%, so although we got independence in 1948, our digital independence is far away. 90% of the digital data in the country is held by foreign countries. Only we 3% we own today. And our endeavor has been here, Vigyan has been to create a sovereign digital infrastructure. As a country, as an institution, why can't we own the data? Somebody gives 100 GB free, you put your data. I think, the value of data is more than 100 GB of storage. So one of the things that our job is some other countries, somebody else gives you free base on the network, don't sell your data for free. Your data is much more valuable with 1 GB of storage, free storage, right? And our focus has been to create sustainable infrastructure. So as a country, we have limited natural resources. We are huge amount of population, 1.1 billion, right? I think our needs has to be first priority of water has to be for drinking and agriculture, right? Then AI. So how do you demonstrate that? Again, you show, right? You show by doing it. Sometimes you have to prove, sometimes you actually show. So I think I urge all of you to come and visit our development. So it's the first of its kind in the world. It's actually sustainable, green. It's a sovereign data sets here on the image. It doesn't go anywhere. Our focus has been how we can replicate this, create hundreds of such references in the country, hundreds or thousands or millions of them, The data stays within the community because that should be owned by the institution, should own the data, not somebody else. And as long as they are able to make it sustainable and cost effective, it's a game changer, right? Game changer. Next important thing I looked at, as aspect we were telling about, we all talk about companies, organization, right? Organization, right? What's the biggest asset of any organization? Can you tell me? What's the biggest asset of any organization? Sorry? Sorry? People. It's all people, right? What is an organization? Organization is a set of people with a common goal, objective, that's it. Right? That's all is organization. You have to think about it. And at Vigalas, our endeavor has been create an organization structure which focus on people. I always believe if you provide the best environment to people, environment and work to people, then do the best one, right? And we are different. So everything we want to, don't follow the standard corporate models of, I don't, we say, so a couple of policies we follow. There's an organization hierarchy for administrative purposes. Otherwise, everybody is equal. Anybody can talk to anybody. Nobody sits in a covered cabin. Nobody sits in an open room. Anybody can approach anybody. There's no barriers. But after knowledge is right, there is knowledge economy. Could be young, right? But it doesn't matter. Just like in sports, and a new sports star comes and becomes a hero, right? Like knowledge wise, you can be maybe if you're younger than me, but you may have more knowledge than me, right? So I think we should respect knowledge. Age is one factor, age is for pure respect. Okay, you treat and respect, but you also respect knowledge. Could be irrespective of age, right? Gender, you should respect knowledge. So that's why you create an open culture. Next thing is how do people work, right? What does the organization do? How do you take care of people, right? We look at creating a lot of policies to help people so that they focus on creating the best work and don't worry about them. So, because deep technology innovation requires a lot of time. Today I see people jumping around from one organization to another. Because you want to do deep research, it takes decades of work. Many of the things we talk about sustainable medicine is been 10 years of thinking. Nothing happens overnight, right? Google was not created today, OpenAI was not created today. As a country, we want to do deep research, innovation, I need to spend a lot of time. Nothing happens overnight. So a lot of work is time and energy spent, which means people need to work in office for a long time. People need to work on the office for a long time. What do you do? Not good as a nice hello, nice patting on the back. You take good care of it. So what is the person in your life, right? Look at a typical person, an average person in life, right? He takes a job, fine? Yes, takes a job, needs money to survive, right? Simple. Day-to-day living expenses. You want to have an aspiration to build a house. You want to buy a car or a bike. Okay. Person gets married, right? Pay the expenses for the marriage. Then have a kid. The expenses are there. Sometimes you fall sick. It's hospital expenses. Or your parents will fall sick. You take care of them. Then your child goes to need education. Someday you want to retire. Who's going to take care of you? You have a pension, right? So we look at the person as not as an employee, we look at as a human being. How do you take care of a person as a human being throughout his life? At difficulties, challenging times. So our HR policies we designed to look at as a human being in entire life. He joins the organization, he retires, and after retirement, what do you do? We create a lot of policies in the whole life cycle of the employee. Not look at as a, not as I would say, ongoing college employee as a human being, as a colleague, right? As a co-worker and a colleague. So from the day we join, we always believe that every human being has equal potential to achieve something. We look at fundamental biology, all of us on the same DNA. What we think separates from what others. That's all. I feel each of you are equally talented. Just that your thinking is different. I'll start thinking that I can do it, you cannot do it. So even hiring people, right? That's very simple. You don't look at marks. You take internship program, pretty much how many job openings are there, we take so many people internship. Right of internship, we know what is he good at, he or she is good at, what will we figure out what person can do. Pretty much then I would say 98% of people after internship we end up absorbing. In the 6 months they try to find out what the person likes, his likes, and whether he can contribute something. Once they're done, we look at the life cycle, right? So we have a lot of policies in this compensation, stock options. Every year you want a birthday, there's a day off, and we get a voucher to go and have a
dinner or lunch with your family or your son holiday. When you get married, you get a leave actually for marriage. Not many companies you get a leave, and you get to pay some amount of compensation to care of your marriage expenses. Then you have a kid. Women get about 6 months maternity leave. We also get paternity leave, and we also allow women. They are doing the pregnancy to work from home 3 months earlier, and even after we don't force people to come to office after the maternity leave is over. We allow them to slowly come to office over time. Because finally, if you don't take care of your children, how are you going to work for you, right? They're all part of society, now. We all did well in life because our mother took care of them. Plus, working women also need to make sure that they can take care of themselves. So we allow them to work a long time, long before COVID came in. And we had these policies. Again, as I said, marriage, health insurance, we take care of the family parents also. We don't only completely cover parents and in-laws also in the incidents. As families, where in-laws doesn't have a son or somebody else, who is going to take care of them? So we take care of parents, in-laws in the covered incidents. Something happens to them, employee, there's a term insurance is covered. There's a very substantial action insurance covered. There's a pension fund, contribute pension to every employee. Other than the government is funding to complete a pension. Under the career he retires, is there enough money can be for the pension, to pay a pension? Then some special drawings, marriage, childbirth, building a home, children's education, and any emergency occurs in life, right? We go through multiple things, so we take care of them. Any emergency occurs in their personal level, family level, we take care of them. And I believe that, I will go back to the ancient Indian civil, Vasudeva Kutumbam. Actually, as long as we live like a family, we don't create too much of business transactions. We all, take care of each other. I think we can create an amazing, as a society, we can create amazing technology for the whole world. And as I believe as an institution, we all look at, ourselves as a family. The whole equation changes, right? Don't look at employee, let's say family. We work with you. And everybody is equally respected and so there's a lot of other activities. Innovation, any employee can innovate, come with any idea, we invest. We don't have to go to the world, we don't have village. It's all about, I always say, a poor man has a tool of subject ambitious, one of corporate. A rich man with billions and millions of dollars, we refuse to share with the corporate, right? I feel as long as we can share whatever we have with the rest of our colleagues, we can create a wonderful society. I always go back that wherever you're in your career today, look at other person as a human being, right? Forget it's only performance. Fundamentally, everybody, all of us human beings. All of us have the same aspiration, right? Right? Our needs are pretty much similar. Okay? As long as we take care of our needs, personal needs, and family, I think, we can create a wonderful organization. And so that's all from my side. I've taken a lot more time. Please, any questions? I'm glad to answer. Yeah, please. I'll stand. It's okay. Stand.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. So we are in a digital world and then we have more of these kind of stuff. Quick, rapid round question. Where the Vigyan Lab started? Where the Vigyan Lab started? Students, what is that? Sorry? What is that? How does it look social, right? Well, Srini, thank you very much, please. See, you need to know remember some of the things. The history gives a lot of input for the future. That's exactly what Srini was trying to convey in terms of digital transformation, especially coming to the Indian part. And if you look at the Mysore, and forget about the Mysore, from the campus point of view, sir. Correct? If you think you need a job in tomorrow in a digital world, you've got to look back to the history and understand kind of jobs, kind of work, how the technology has been made and improved, and what is tomorrow's jobs looks like as well. Most of the things in B schools today, what and all you are learning, or maybe looking to get into the job world, you need to think twice, or maybe look deeply first and as well as backwards as well. What is being transforming with the digital transformation in every organization? Do you follow the trends? Hello? Do you follow the industry trends? Do you understand where it is heading towards? Are you preparing for that? Are you preparing for that? Yes or no? So that's a big question, right? Well, welcome to the campus, which has been keep doing this kind of a thing for nearly 4 decades now. Varadarajan is one of the startups originated from the same campus 12 years back. And they graduated in 2019 and then went outside and established nearly more than 150 employees work. You know what is the interesting thing? So it's probably most of you may not be able to get through that kind of a technology has been built nearly a decade now. It will be going to be $1 billion business in probably not more than 5 to 10 years now. I'm very, very optimistic about that. The reason is the whole lot of the technology which you are using, the transformation you and I see, including in this generation, is going to face that need, and all these jobs are nearly come to saturated. Okay, what you and I can do to be a part of it. Get to know about a little deeper inside of that, like what it is. Earlier, we were all talking about, Srinivas mentioning ERP and the CM market and this thing. So many platforms are there, and you and I can do a good part of the job of that, but unfortunately, know all those kind of stuff. You need to understand all of the technological things. I know you have a few questions, and yeah. There are 13 patents globally recognized this center. You know value of the patents, especially in the technology world, absolutely mind-blowing. Open all your mobiles. Put it for the good use for today now. Please open that. Go to Mysore.ai. Mysore.ai. It may tell that the link is not secure. Please go and click on that. It is very secure. Ask about Vigyan Lab or SSC stuff, it will give you details of it. And it is more safe because Vigyan Lab is not storing any data back. It is on your own phone. The first features. Do you understand the technological difference? ChatGPT and any of the AI platform today are using, all your data is compromised. That's exactly what's telling 97-98% of their data which are punching in any of their own AI tools is being already stored, processed, used, and retargeted back to you. You can go and experiment anything. Now, interesting part is, how about if we are having JSX-STU.ai? It makes sense? We can have all university data sitting at our own place, nowhere else. It makes a lot of sense. Can you imagine that? Can you build our own .ai platform in the back end of that? So, within a short span of 5 to 6 years, Vigyan Lab has grown from now literally in every corner of that. Every notification of the banking system from SBI is coming from Vigyan Labs. Your SMSs, your notification, all routed to that. How many of you actually use Swiggy Zomato? Everybody? Every notification coming from Vigyan Labs. Every notification. How many actually use any of the medical platform to book your medicines? Routed through Vigyan Labs. All your other and central system very much the same hands. I'm writing myself. How many happy about that? So is digital transformation actually happening? Do you know all of these things? Literally in a room out of this campus. So welcome to the new world. You'll have abundance of information, but only if you can understand it. So don't be in a dogma of, I know everything, yeah, I got everything. No, we got to be intelligence as well. That's why human resources still matters. Our intelligence still matters. So with so many patents and establishing across India, even the governments of the different countries are looking at this kind of a technology advantage. India is heading towards that direction. We are no more a consumeristic country, right? We're just not going to use. If you are continuing to do that, you are losing a lot of edge with respect to the other big guys, and we end up in telling that no, we don't have a job. The growth without the progress. Do you want that? No. Open question. Anything you want to add to that? Anybody want to ask a question? We're talking about data center. Assume that if somebody wanted to develop a data center, if they are done in a conventional way, it will take this much space as a conventional one. What we can have to study is that if you look at that corner, what they've built, the capacity is sitting in that kind of small spaces, completely taking the same depth and intelligence which is required, and using AI itself to monitor and control 24/7. Absolutely no downtime in the last 5 years, not even one single downtime. Can you understand this technology? Just don't be a users. Really get into that. I know most of you have come from either engineering background or the degree background. Please understand that your MBA needs to be now aligned to understanding the technology itself on its core, just not the surface level. Any questions on technical side or the business side? Yes, sir.
So, here. So somewhere I read that 89% of the industries are only using 10% of the mantra what we call as sustainability in terms of recycle, refurbish, and reuse.
Yeah.
This seems maybe much worse with the consumers also. So we don't refurbish, reuse, or recycle. So how are we going to attain sustainability?
Two things, right? See, one is creating awareness and things happen. Second thing, legal framework, right? So you look at like corporations today. Look at India, right? As a country, the SEBI has put a regulation. All till now, we have this standard scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 emission, right? We declare, and it was for top 50 nations countries again. And now SEBI has mandated that all 1,000 people listed companies have to list their scope 1, 2, 3 emissions, measure them and list them. Then there are a lot of laws coming in Europe. If you are going to start measuring the carbon intensity, and if you are not carbon neutral or you don't reduce intensity, you are end up paying a carbon tax. So in a carbon tax, today CO2 emission, right? There's a trading index. But one ton of CO2, if you are not emitting, you have to pay something, right? How are you offset it? Cost of offsetting 1 ton of CO2 emissions is about 80 euros. From the 80 euros, 8,000 rupees now. That's kind of thing happening, right? So we look at today, any companies want to work with Europe. You want to export something to Europe. You have to measure your scope 1, 2, 3 emissions and they will have a carbon reduction plan. If you don't have a plan, you have to pay for 80 euros per ton. It's a huge amount of money. And I think it's happening right now. It's just that look at the EV, right? Look at the vehicles. Luckily, Supreme Court intervened, right? Which is a mandate for all the kind of countries. India has Euro 4, Euro 6 is coming. Euro 6 coming means you can't use diesel vehicles. But Delhi, we have stuck the everything. There's something in the law. And one is by the law, it's its own because I think has citizen need to create whether it's ourselves we're using clean first, right? And luckily, I think we created a sustainable COA in step last month to promote sustainable practices. So what I urge all of you is that all of you need to be ambassadors for sustainability because it's our future. Our future, right? So, see, for today, you're seeing broads. See the amount of days happened in Mumbai to the question, right? 1 2 mm, the airport was flooded. Last week we saw Himachal, right? The cloud burst. People asked about it. Before things happened, right? And because, see, one thing we need to understand as human beings, nature is much more powerful than us. We all say save nature. Nature will save itself. Nature, if you don't do anything, if you do anything damage nature, you destroy it, right? Look at dinosaurs, right? The most powerful animals and nature form, they are not suitable to live, they destroy. All it takes a speck of the world for nature to destroy us, right? If you find you are all causing more harm, we will all vanish. I don't think don't save nature, save yourself. Right? Save yourself. I think we need to start practicing sustainable, right? I think that because our focus has been to create awareness, create technology to side. I think technology can do something at the same time. Personal or beyond can do something like home recycle, reuse. But if you go back to the pre-90, what we doing this way, in fact, I don't think, in fact, of parent, my mother, grandmother, I think there was no garbage bin at home, right? There's no garbage bin. Everything was reused, right? There's no plastic. Because plastic has given a lot of comforts. There's no plastic. I remember I used to go to the shop, take a bag and bring vegetables and rice, everything used to pack it and pack it. And we started making fancy, package and package. And look at countries like Europe, Germany. See, you pay money to buy a bag. Actually, in Germany, people carry cotton bags in their shops and then bring grocery back. And water bottles, actually, you pay €1 for a bottle. And you buy a bottle. And we have better than money. I think that's legal framework happening globally. I mean, we are all actually seeing that natural disasters happening, right? I think after all of us individually collectively do something. We don't do it, exist, it will disappear. So you will believe or not, the choice, right?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Because after I have heard you, I came to know that we are using so much of natural resources with the digital. I was not so aware of the water consumption and all that. So I think that's very scary, sir. Though on the other part of it, digital has given us a lot of comfort, but I think somewhere it is very scary now.
But just to tell you very important, right? See, the world's biggest data center is there currently in North Virginia. We have some couple of scientists in the US friends. We did a mapping, satellite mapping of the weather of Northern Virginia from 2014 to 2025, the last period. We found the summer temperature, average summer temperature, increased by 3.5 degrees. Winter temperature, January to March, increased by 5 degrees. And Virginia has the highest concentration of medicine today, and they're going to happen. So imagine your temperature increasing by winter by 6 degrees hot, right? Winter is no longer cool. Summer increasing by 5 degrees hot. So we expect, the same thing will happen everywhere. That's why we are looking at sustainable infrastructure. What's the point in have all the convenience? So you can't drink water, water to drink, you can breathe, right? Like we need to create more and more awareness because most people don't know. Every time you buy a credit charge, think of how much water is going to consume. Right? I think this is a choice for us to make, whenever we buy any equipment, electronic equipment, see how we can recycle. Last question to the vendor. Are we using sustainable technologies? Can be recycled? Because finally all the electronic waste gets in garbage dump, right? And garbage dump produces electronic water. Water we all get, what will happen? The electronic waste is copper, arsenic, lead. Comparing what is well garbage, eventually becomes our food, right? Thank you.
But also there is a hackathon on sustainability of ICDI. I think it's going to be shortly announced, probably is already announced by from the MP. The other itself is taking a lead and participating in it and understand how people the challenges and the problems of even sustaining cities like Mysore itself, which was so well managed by the participation in the citizen itself, and what are the transformations we're going to see in coming days. Thank you, Sri.
Thank you, everyone.
So thank you very much. designs in his organization is for differently enabled